So I was just having a conversation with a sparrow that wasn't leaving the windowsill. It finally did when I started closing the windowsill. Talking to it, telling it to leave, did not work. I'm struggling. This is like my 15th, 100th time trying to make a video here because I don't really have a topic. So far, every time I've tried, I've gone into talking about Digimon, I've gone into talking about Pokemon, I've gone into talking about Neopets, and none of this is really my channel, what it's about. It could be, however, if I were to make such a drastic change to the formula, I would probably want to put more effort into it, rather than rambling off thoughts about things a lot of you probably know nothing about. Not Pokemon, obviously. I feel like everyone, well, not everyone, but a lot of you already know about that one, and I probably could talk about it and you'd understand, but I was mostly talking about Digimon, to be real, and I know that's a lot more niche. And then I don't know enough about it, because like, I'm like further... Anyways, I'm gonna end up talking about it again, guys. I've just been playing a lot of video games. I find I'm in a bit of a writing slump, not entirely. I wouldn't fully call it a slump, but I definitely have been feeling like I need to get new creative energy. So I sat down to play a lot of video games, because video games tend to be the media that I like to consume the most. It's just, I think it's easier for me to get engrossed in the plot because you have to take an active role in things, whereas I can't really do that as much in more passive forms of media, which I guess is every other form of media, except I guess like stage plays where they like take you, they kidnap you as a prop for their comedy. I'm thinking improv, but like improv isn't exactly... Anyways, I'm going off in the weeds again, but yeah, like I play a lot of video games to reinvigorate my creative brain, and that's been going alright. I played Corpse Party for the first time for the DS, and it was spoopy, okay? I'm terrible at handling scary games. I'm just not into it usually. Yeah, like I get scared by like really innocuous, very cheap horror kind of stuff. So I tend to avoid it in general. I find like the super high-end, big tier thought psychological horror is a lot less scary to me. For me, it's like creepypasta and just kind of like over the top spooky stuff that like just gets deep beneath my skin. So I picked up I picked up Corpse Party in the middle of the night because I was looking for games to play, because I've been struggling to think out like plots and ideas and things. I didn't think it was a horror game, which is, yeah, I was sleepy. It was the middle of the night, to be fair. I thought it was just like a spoopy game. I don't know. It's like a corpse party, right? It's a party. And by chapter 5, it is bopping and 100% a corpse party. But before then, it was just a scary game. It was very horror. It had all the horror tropes. But it was definitely engrossing in the way that like the other games I was trying to play wasn't. So that's kind of why I ended up playing the entirety of it. And it makes me want to play more, but I also don't like to be scared. Like, stop it. Don't scare me. That's mean. I just get tricked into playing horror games. Like, that's the only way it ends up. And I guess the only one who tricked me here was myself. And it's so obvious. If you look at anything to do with this game, it's like, yeah, that's a horror game, Bones, but like, I don't know what I was thinking. Like, once I opened the menu and I saw all the blood, I was like, oh, okay, this is definitely a horror game. But then I proceeded anyways, and there's my mistake, the proceeding. Despite my better judgment, it was fun though. Ursula joined in eventually, because like the night before I scared myself real good playing it in the dark alone. That's another problem I have. I do tend to play games in the dark alone, so maybe that's why horror games get me so hard. Yeah, the other one that tricked me was Doki Doki, right? Like, I knew something about it was gonna be creepy because, you know, like there's the warning at the beginning, and you play it and it lulls you. If you don't know anything about it, it like just lulls you. into this false sense of security. I was like, okay, maybe it just gets like edgy, like not edgy, but like maybe it just gets like psychologically like deep or something. And then it turned out to just be creepy stuff, and I didn't enjoy that. Like I did, but you know, it's like horror. Like that's the thing with horror. It's like you could totally not enjoy the experience, but then that's like part of the experience, and that's kind of why you enjoy it, right? I don't know. I write horror, and it's very different than like, it's very different. Like writing it versus reading it versus like playing a horror game. It's so different because like when you're writing horror, you're the murderer. You're the bad guy. Ain't no one gonna get you. You're evil. Playing a game, you're the victim. You're the one being attacked. So like I don't get that line of thought, I guess, because people are like, oh, you write it, so therefore you must enjoy reading it. And I think there's definitely a crossover there. People who like to read it probably also might enjoy to write it, but for me it's like, no, I write it because I can't read it without like ruining my sleep schedule with spooky thoughts. So yeah, I find it way easier to write horror than it is to read it. And like my problem is I accidentally write horror into things, and maybe that's part of why I thought like Corpse Party wasn't a horror game, because in my mind it's just like not a scary concept. I just add elements of like body horror to everything and just gross stuff, and I don't know, it's just fun to describe dead things. I don't know, it's just very visceral. It's like viscera, right? Viscera is very visceral. There's only so many times you can describe some pretty frickin' flowers, right? Like, give me gore, give me decay, give me stinky. I love it. That's my thing. Stinky is my thing. I like to describe that stuff. And I like watching Ursula draw that stuff. Ursula, my artist, my wife, my beloved, she's the one who's into all of this like horror stuff. Like she's constantly watching all of it. Ugh, she knows like everything. Because like when I was like, oh, I was playing Corpse Party, she was like, ah, yes, the classic. And I'm like, why do you know all this stuff? Like, you're weird. She's such a freak. She just spends so much time watching, like, it's like me. I watch all my Pokemon YouTube stuff, and then she's watching all this horror YouTube and true crime and stuff. Like, what's with women and true crime? Okay, she doesn't watch tons of it. She used to watch way more of it, but she definitely watches horror stuff and knows everything horror related. I don't know. So cruel of her. Evil wife. This is a little more coherent and cohesive than my previous thingies. Yeah, because I don't know. I've just been struggling to figure out what I wanted to write. Because I'm working on draft 2 of book 2 of Books of Avo. The second book of Avo, if you will. And that's a lot of work. Man, it's so much work. I hate working. But the problem is, like, you play a game and like Corpse Party, and then you're like, well, now I want to write horror stuff. Like, I don't want to write whatever I'm currently writing. I want to make something new. Give me something new to work on. Yeah, it always ends up making me want to write something new. So I sat down and I put what I've written so far of draft 2 into my text-to-speech program. And I sat down and I listened to it, and I'm loving it. Like, I am vibing with what I've written so far. And usually once I get to the end of something like that, I'm just like, okay, it's time to write. I'm ready. But I sat down and I'm not ready to write. I'm still stuck. I'm still not vibing. I feel like I'm at the point here where I need to just make myself do it. The issue, it gets harder and harder to force yourself to write, because as you get further along into a story and further along into your edits, you start feeling like you need to write more and more perfect writing, which isn't great when you're feeling stuck, because you're a lot more precious with it. And I think it's valid to be more precious with it as you move into like the further and further drafts and closer to completion. So like my alternative is to work on something that's like further back in the creative process. Yeah, it was further back in the creative process. So something like that's in early drafts or just in like the planning stage. And like I also am not feeling like doing that, because the other thing is that when you start at the beginning and you're working on edits, you realize you're tricked. You're being fooled by your future self, because you sit down to write a new draft and you're like, this is actually going to take forever, isn't it? And you know that it'll take forever because you're on draft 2 and it's already taking forever. And yeah, so I don't really want to start something new. I'm going to just hit my head against book 2 later today. Right now I have to finish this, and then I have to read some things for critique, and then I need to discuss those critique things, and then I can write, possibly. And I'm not sure that it is in me to write today. Yeah, see, I struggle. This is me sharing my struggles with you, the YouTube viewer, the non-VOD watching, the non-thingy thing. Yeah, this is me to you, heart to heart. I struggle, just like you. I'm mortal. I am human. I have stuff that's like in early production. I'm working on another kind of webtoonized novel-y experience. Beautiful phrase. Yeah, I'm working on one of those. One of those that's intended to be a lot more long form, a lot more episodic in a way, but I'm really super early into that. Like, I did my first draft of like a few chapters, and now I've gone back to working on the world building. I don't know if y'all are interested in that. Maybe I could talk to you about my world building stuff there, but it's difficult because when it's so early on into things, I don't always want to share. That said, like, if it tends to be the case that like these videos are so niche that it's more of a promotion to spoil things than you think it is. I don't know. I think it's a noble, understandable trait to not share a lot about what you're writing, what you're working on to social media. But it's like, if you have 500 followers, like, you can just share things. Like, unless you're, I guess the point of contention is that a lot of you might be trying to get published with like a publishing house, especially those of you that write novels. I have no interest in that. I'm a control freak. Maybe that's a video I should do. I don't know if that'd be interesting, like why I self-publish instead of TradPub. I don't know, that might be interesting. Yeah, okay, I'll consider that. But right, like if you are like set on self-publishing, like I don't see the point all the time in hiding every single thing about your world building and your art and your writing. It's just like, who cares? You can keep your major spoilers to yourself, but like, I don't know, it's the experience, man. And for me, like a lot of the times, like I've gotten into comics, specifically like webcomics. I've gotten into webcomics because I'll see a spoiler because someone like posted their update thing and the spoiler looks so cool, and I'm like, whoa, how did we get there? Yeah, that ends up being cool. And a lot of the times, like I was saying, writing takes forever. It takes literally forever. So by the time you actually finish it, things will be different, and it'll be so long since you posted that it'll probably be lost in your social media feed forever, in which case, like, who cares? Okay, so maybe I should talk to you guys about my plans. I feel like more than anything, it just gets people hype about things. I actually I'm working on this, but like I've always had like the tendency to just not talk about my projects, and in a way where like I assume that people already know about like what I'm working on, but they don't. The world is big. People are complicated. Social media doesn't share everything to your viewers. So like, just talk. It's basically guaranteed that anything you post is going to be someone's first experience with your work. So just keep that in mind. Yeah, this is the closest thing to like a topic video I've got today. Right. I think I'm gonna wrap up for now. I just got a busy day. ahead of me, basically. So I didn't think that I was going to be doing this. I forgot that I was doing this. So I'm going to sit down and probably write some topic ideas out for my Monday videos as well. Because I thought they would be easy, and I think they are easy. It's just a matter of having some ideas to go off of. Ugh, it's hot too, so I just want to get out of this chair. Thank you for listening. If you want to look at my work, you can do so on Webtoon and Tapas. But more importantly, you can check my stuff out on Etsy or itch.io. You can find me on places like Amazon, but like if you really want like the money to mostly go to me, it'd be on my Etsy or my itch.io shop. Etsy tends to be like lower quality ebook files. They're there because, you know, people buy them there, but like the high quality stuff is all going to be on itch.io, as well as my audiobook stuff. It's like if you buy something on Audible, basically, like I get a couple cents. If you buy it on itch.io, I get like $15. Like it is like insanely different, like the amount of cut out of my profit or whatever. So that's a thing. And like the video, comment. Again, I love comments the most. I can give or take the other stuff. And subscribe if you're new. And I guess if you're old too, because some people just aren't subscribed. They think they are, but they're not. That's the YouTube thing to say nowadays. It's like, it's not like if you're new, subscribe. If you think you're subscribed, you're probably not. Like, only 1% of my viewers are subscribed or something. I don't I don't know what's going on. All right, I'm done. Okay, I'm stopping. I don't know what I talked about. How am I gonna thumbnail this video? Oh God.